Noon traders, and welcome to the Pro Trader webinar, kicking it off this week, all week long. Professional traders every day. Today's at 1 p.m. as you guys know. Tomorrow and the rest of the week it's all at traders 10 and welcome to the Pro Trader webinar, kicking it off. Today we scheduled it with Fausto Pugliese from Cyber Trading University. We've had him several times before in the past. He couldn't make it today. However, we have Josh Levitan. He works with Fausto for over 9 years now. So he leads their trading room as well, or leads certain sessions of the trading room along with Fausto. Anyway, you guys know who Fausto is. He's been trading for quite a while, and since the 90s, as one of those SOS bandits. I have an interesting history with him. Met him at some of these live trading events, and he always won them. He just annihilated them. In fact, all these other traders were waiting and waiting and waiting, where Fausto was in, out. He already made a lot of money and and several trades. Josh has been mentored directly underneath him and has his own ways of trading as well. And like I said, has been working with Fausto for 9 years or so. Anyway, there's contact information here if you're interested in Cyber Trading University, Twitter, YouTube, email, and also affiliate link with discounts for Bookmap here if you're interested. All right, so let me go through the disclosures and turn it right over to Josh. General disclosure: all Bookmap limited materials, information, and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice nor recommendations. Risk disclosure: trading futures, equities, and digital currencies involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. All right, let me turn it over to Josh. Just a second here. And get his screen up and running. Excellent. You're good to go, Josh.
All right, Bruce, can you hear me there?
Yes.
All right, great. Let me just get my webcam up really quickly. If I can't, then whatever. But we are good to go, folks. So here we go. Hey, it's great to be on Bookmap's platform. I have been long itching to have this opportunity. Perhaps you could say cat's out of the bag here. Perhaps not under the most ideal circumstances. Wishing my boss Fausto very well here. I know he was looking forward to joining Bruce here today and team. So with that said, I mean, hey, it's been as good of a day as any for me to come on here and show you really what we're all about. For right now, I really want to start off and really kind of perhaps just use this AI stock as our case study across the whole way through. Now, really quick, I'm not sure if I could see the chat the whole way through, Bruce, so maybe you could assist. But, for all of us here, is anyone familiar with this stock in particular, AI? I think it's called C3.ai. That's the ticker name. So if anyone is familiar with it, perhaps, hey, this is a stock that we've been trading inside our live trading room just all throughout the last month and a half, 2 months. The whole AI sector blew up, right? If it wasn't this, it was something else. Well, this stock in particular, AI, was showing some good activity this morning in the pre-market trading session. So I know, actually, although this is my first time on Bookmap's platform, I know I'm dealing with a lot of, well-versed traders here that are familiar with Bookmap. Perhaps you can call yourself like an intermediate or even expert level Bookmap trader. Well, so with that said, you should know, and like all traders should realize that you can't reinvent the wheel. Right? There's only so much that we could focus on when it comes to just not just a stock, but just strategy. So what I want to harp on with you here today with using AI is really just two things. One, going with the momentum. That's our whole MO here at Cyber Trading University, to follow the big money. And with that, there's so many different ways on Bookmap, of course, to follow big money. So we want to make sure that we have, finally, not just going with the momentum, but making sure that our levels are plotted. The preparation behind it all here, if anything. So let's actually dig into the pre-market trading within AI. Right now, it's actually still running. It's at the high of the day right now. So maybe we'll check in with this trade just coming up in a moment. Primarily, we're going to be using Bookmap here all throughout this presentation. The only time I'll actually kind of pan away from Bookmap is just to go to my regular trading platform, just the chart, and I only just want to show the historical chart, the daily chart or weekly chart at that. Otherwise, it's all based off of Bookmap here. So I have a few different columns sharing here, and just to briefly kind of go over them, because I know a lot of us are familiar already. COB. This paints the heat map here. So we focus on any of these limit buy and sell orders out there and any that stand out, and perhaps not just in terms of size, but also perhaps in terms of how long they stand out there on the order book for. You would like to remember those levels, plot them on your chart, draw them at least. The reason I say that is that if it's not Bookmap, it's your regular chart, but you want to make sure that you have your levels prepped. It's like having the answers to the test before the test is even given out. So that will kind of reduce the ability of us including emotion into trading with those lines kind of being there beforehand. So with that, well, when we take a look at the COB column, what I tend to focus on is first longevity, like how long these orders are out here for first. So clearly there has to be a reason why there's such a big order out there at, well, perhaps not even 21. Perhaps at the price level $20.90 here, going into the market open, that was out there for about 2.5 hours, pretty much, hour and a half, I'm sorry, if not more. Well, from there, 22, that was out there all throughout pre-market. AI ran up towards a high of just about 21 and change, 21.40-ish, and then pulled back. Well, at that point, 22 is still peak resistance going into the market open there. There are, a couple of orders above that perhaps, but nothing really too prominent. And then, well, hey, maybe I spoke too fast. 24, 18,000 share order on the ask. As we scroll up more and more and more, you would assume more of a psychological price level like 25. Quarter century number to be a big level, so that's something to focus on, in case if this really decides to run. Before we even worry about these, we have to worry about 22 and 21 and all these just in between here, from pre-market. So, what I'll do right now, I have my main chart kind of on my other screen here, but we'll kind of work off a naked platform here and we'll kind of just chart some levels at that. We have 22, we have 21, and 2090 at least, that iceberg that was actually there, not even 21. Right here, 2090. Now, otherwise, so you could also see how prominent 2090 is as a key level, just because, well, not just the COB, but this column here, the chart range volume profile, CVP column, you could see how prominent this spike is. So not just from the limit order on the ask that got broken through here, but likely from consolidation at that point too. Ended up seeing just a high volume traded at that 2090 prior to the market opening. So just take a step back. Let's think about this here really quickly. If our whole thesis at cyber trading is to follow the big money, follow the big price levels, the smart money, and we're calling this a big volume level, you think that you should follow it or what? So 2090 is definitely a key level now at this stage. It definitely sticks out a lot more, even with this consolidation in mind. All right, now, again, there could be other prices to focus on here coming up. The CVP Delta column, we'll buckle in on in just a moment. When I did my planning, my plotting for the market open today on this trade, I wasn't really looking at this at the time from my recollection. So we'll go over the entries that I was calling out inside our live trading room, the entries I took, and then others that we ended up following all throughout the morning on this trade. But we have those three price levels. We have 2090, we have 21, we have 22. Maybe otherwise, this kind of sticks out here for a little bit. If you could see this here, this is an order on the bid at just about 2066 roughly. Yeah, the issue on this is that it's only here for like a little while, right? It's there for about 15, 20 minutes. I'll write it down just for right now, but I would have more trust, more reliance on the price level so far that we had talked about. 2020, you could focus on that maybe as that's getting a bit larger of an order heading into the market open. All right. So really quick, let me just actually peel this back. Have my main trading platform up right now. Now, I only want to show this because, of course, Bookmap is such a big focal point for my own trading. I actually told Bruce before I joined on to do the sound test here that, even after 2 years of using Bookmap, I mean, I've been using it now for like 4.5 at this point, probably. But 2 years in, I've had more light bulbs turn off in the back of my head 2 years in than I had the 4.5 years prior to using without using Bookmap. So that is such a huge focal point for my own trading. However, when it comes down to actually focusing in on historical levels, we can't completely disrespect the chart. So one level that I was like kind of screaming inside our live trading room, it even looks even cleaner here at this 2019. If we're being transparent, I did not have this line set at 2019, and that's just the honesty of my.
Josh, I'm sorry to interrupt you. It looks like your visual stream is paused.
I don't know what happened there. I didn't touch anything.
Did you switch from maybe you're not sharing the screen and you're
Give
sharing
me a
it.
quick.
Guys,
Give me a
because
quick.
you minimized it, Josh. That's why
Okay.
you
Give me.
minimized the window. Yeah.
Give me. Okay. Give me 1 second here. It was probably the application, and that's why,
Yeah,
not the
yeah,
window.
yeah. The window
My
is better.
apologies. And right here, we're good to go now, right?
Yes, now I see your candlestick chart.
My apologies, folks. Quick little adjustment there, but should be good to go now. So with that, hey, I was trying to say before, I put such a huge focal point on Bookmap here with my own trading. So, really the only other thing that I use outside of Bookmap is just a regular historical chart. So I had this line here at 2033, and this was on my actual trading chart going into the open. This was holding really well, just ran right around this area from the beginning of this year, all throughout going into April. Now it broke under that price there at that point. So, perhaps you can anticipate for this historical support to act as a historical resistance over time. And it did actually from last week. Now, actually, if I was going to peel back the curtain a bit and show a little honesty here in myself, 2033 is actually the price I put that line on my own chart this morning. I noticed here, I plotted it quickly just before the little issue happened. Notice 2019, that was actually like even cleaner, right? I mean, I was right around the right area, but even kind of in hindsight now, speaking with you folks here, like that 2019 looks even stronger as a bottom. Does line up pretty nicely with that 2020 there, doesn't it, right? Now, I was still right on point with the area looking for this to bounce off of when the market had opened up. I used 2033 alongside this order on the bid at 2020. But there you go, a little pointer for a self-reflection there. 2019 was even that much better of a bottom, and it lined up perfect with this order that was going into the market open. So, really quick, folks, the last part about this trade that I'll kind of harp on before I analyze it, showing you where we got in after, what happened from that point. We know it's still moving up at the highs right now, but the last thing when it comes to preparation, we have these levels plotted on Bookmap, we have these levels plotted on your regular chart otherwise. When the market opens up, to each their own, there are some that wait a lot longer than we do. There are some folks that jump right in. We typically wait the first 3 to 5 minutes just after the market opens up, before we look to jump into a trade. Now, that could be easy to say in hindsight because it had popped up pretty nicely after, then took off. Hey, typically around 10:30 is where we see that window of opportunity really shrink and close down. So you don't want to begin trading around 10 o'clock, 10:15 Eastern. That window is already tight enough. So don't just jump right into the deep end of the pool right away. This was trending down leading into the open anyway there. So no surprise, it pulled back right into this liquidity here on the bid, this buy limit order that was out there at 2020. Now, again, perhaps that could have been the sweetest entry of them all. One thing that I'll mention here, though, and I'll probably just recite over and over as we go throughout this trade, it's just that when it comes to following momentum and following big money, just momentum, you want to be going upward, right? You want to be entering on the way up. So, a huge catchphrase that I say inside our live trading room to, any of our members here, actually, like Barbara and Kathleen, Michael, I see just joining us here today. It's to say that my best entries to buy a stock are directly after it breaks through a big level on the way up. So, honestly, it looks like it ended up pulling right into this liquidity here at 2020 and, bounced from that point. But to be very transparent with you, even if I was looking for this to be the perfect bounce level here instead of just the range of 2033 in this order, it's just to say that it didn't break under and back over that order. If my best entries to buy are after it breaks over the level and it's trading above the level prior to the open, you actually want to see this order get tested, if not get completely broken through first, a quick under and then over. Now, there are some folks that look to wait for confirmation, the close of the bar higher, or not just higher, but a green candle perhaps at that, and seeing it close higher from that level. I go in right away. I don't mind taking a break-even trade if I'm wrong the first attempt, and then trying to jump in maybe moments later. If you're not as quick on that, perhaps you're not going to trade as active, but you're going to take safer trades waiting for the confirmation. At the end of the day, for the students that do that I coach, I always say to each their own on that, but I show how I enter my trades, and it's really just the same way all throughout. So ultimately, did I get in right from 2019, 2020? I did not. If I could tell you my first entry on this trade, I ended up getting in I did break my 5-minute rule, I will say. With this stock, this was the only stock that I was personally prepped on going into the whole market open. I had these levels plotted. I had this 2033 level plotted. I had the 2020 on my regular chart. So what I am really waiting for here is to see this at least snip under and over. But actually, in my case, thankfully, I used that as kind of a range of a support level. And let me show you what happened here. I'll just take the heat map off. Oh, single use, sorry. I thought it was off, single use there. So essentially, it broke under, over from 2033, and I took the trade very quickly right from this point. I got in right at 2032 as my entry price on the trade. Hey, if it ended up pulling back lower, I would have taken a small loss, and perhaps if it were to break back above and go again, then I would have taken the same trade again. This stock was up off of news, it was active in pre-market, and with such a historical level just from the daily chart, plus Bookmap's limit order on the bid there, that liquidity that was out there, it at least provides just a great opportunity. Now, this could be easy to say after the fact, but here's my second catchphrase. It's not as simple as this, but for our students that we train, if you focus on these two catchphrases to begin, it does really slow the pitch down a lot. So here's the thing, right? We talk about the level prep and, this limit order on the bid perhaps, and there's plenty more to this trade. We got the whole move here to talk about. It's actually so interesting that this is still kind of at the highs and still holding as well as it is. So there was plenty of action that I ended up taking and our students as well inside our live trading room throughout the morning. So, we're only talking about the first entry here. But if this is such a big level, which it is, we saw it evidently just on the regular chart, let alone Bookmap showing a dark orange line here heading into the market open. So if that is such a prominent area, such a prominent level, we should see a pretty prominent reaction off of it, a pretty big move shortly after. So, unless if you're inexperienced with this one ticker, to which a lot of us may be, we've been trading this for like a month and a half, 2 months at this point inside our live trading room. So for a $20 stock as volatile as this, I thought there was a great chance for this to make like a dollar move, for this to make a move up towards at least 21, if not perhaps close to 22. The slower this moves throughout the morning, well, we're losing that window of opportunity ultimately, just heading into that 10:30 kind of, stagnant lunchtime type of, area. So thankfully, it ended up providing a nice liftoff here, ended up popping over the VWAP line here in white, and ultimately broke above the opening print right here at 2075, basically. So on this trade, there were other levels that I had plotted out otherwise, the 21, the 22, the 23 coming up as we'll talk about. But really outside of that, it really just comes down to the opening print now, that 2075, this giant green dot on Bookmap. This represents a 185,000 share, roughly, transaction that came out right at the market open. So really, just prior to my entry, I did plot this line here as well. Now, really quick, though, this is where I like to shed the importance of this green dot, or this dot altogether if it's green or red. The opening bell print, as I'll look to kind of label it as, I have my volume dot set in a certain manner here. Thankfully, Bruce, you and I spoke about this long while back, and I've never changed ththese settings since, actually, so I appreciate you hopping on that call with me a long while back to fix this. So, really the only thing I fixed now is the minimal trade size, and, I adjust that from stock to stock, but when the market opened up this morning, there was a 184,000 plus share print that came in on the tape. That's an aggregate or conglomerate of orders that are triggered just at the market open price. All right, so be it. Who knows what in all of that, right? That's the key question, right? Because for 184,000 shares, I'd like to think that is pretty big. Well, how big? Well, let's look at these orange lines again. If we're calling 22 big, and now at this point, after the market had opened up, 2150 became big. This orange line, a big level for about 14,000 shares, then for about 21,000 shares on the ask here, 22. All right, well, if those are big, which they are, how big is 184,000? You tell me. How big is that compared to all this? So it's not like I'm calling these small, 2150, 22, up ahead, 24, 25, and change. Those are respectably large, but when it comes down to following this as a key level, you tell me. Now, you can imagine at least the second entry, which I'll go into in just a moment. I'll talk about at least where I ended up getting out on the first one, but the second one was pretty pristine. So on the first trade, I didn't need to be perfect with the exit because we're trying to be as clean and pristine with our entry as possible. Meaning, like, I don't care if I get out at the tippy top. Like, it's not a bragging game. I don't, like, as long as I'm content with the money that's in my pocket at the end of the trade. So I was looking for this to move up towards 21, which it ultimately popped up there pretty fast. So on this trade, I ended up closing out my first trade at 21.22. $21.22. That was at the time like 937.45. So I felt justified just to yank the trade out from there, just to say, I mean, hey, if you're in the position for like nearly $1 and it's like not even 9.45 yet, there's plenty of action left on this. There's plenty of action left on other stocks too that I'm maybe not looking at the time. So again, as long as I'm content with the money I'm already up, then just take the money, try and focus in on another move. I'm sure at some point, for as much as this pops up, it's going to drop. It's going to pull back. So that was my like general loose thought. Thankfully, it popped up a little bit more, but then had pulled back down. All right, so now I'm going to tell you my second entry on this trade. So on this one, I ended up taking a loss actually on this one. So I ended up jumping in right from 2096. Well, why 2096? Well, actually, at first, going into the market open, we had that one level out there. What was that, at 21? And then at 2090, right? We had the whole number level. And then we had the big CVP level that was out there in pre-market. So from now, what I'll do is kind of pull back the heat map again, just to kind of show the regular kind of price action. This is where I got chopped up on one trade here. So after I ended up getting out on my position, I tried jumping back in again, and I ended up taking a pretty clean entry. So shortly after, like right here in this area, I ended up getting filled kind of in this range at 2096. But my issue was I ended up holding too long. I was looking for the bigger and better move up at that point, didn't get it, and it made an unexpected shake and took me out. So it ended up taking me out right under the VWAP here. I didn't want to hold on any longer. There were other trades out there. And then from that point, maybe if this ends up finding support, perhaps off the opening print, it would lead to potentially the next move, or maybe if it breaks back over 21, there's always just a thought of taking another position. So, I'm not the type that scalps in and out, tiny, but for as much as I already made a cushion on the first trade, all right, I took a tiny loss on the second trade. Much smaller compared to the win, so I still feel good about this stock. It's just like, hey, where's the next big area in which this can make a move off of? So I missed this, popped up, it pulled back, and then this is the exact move that I wanted to see happen, at least in terms of finding support. I wish it happened at 2090 when I took that next trade, the loss. But otherwise, for that big 180 plus thousand, it ended up providing a pretty good opportunity. It broke under it. It broke right back over it. It made the perfect move that I strive to take. So when it comes to following your strategy, as long as you have lines prepped up and the correct ones at that, as long as you know where the big money is trading at ultimately, you could have certain expectations about what a stock may look to do. So when I talk about like when a stock breaks through a big level, we should be expecting a pretty big move shortly after. Well, what does that exactly mean? How big is big, right? Well, I'll tell you, if I could nab a pretty sweet entry going with the momentum under and over, well, hey, at least for me, 50 cents, I think could be a pretty justified trade. 40 cents, 30 cents. It's money that I didn't have before I took this damn trade. So, I'm not trying to be in and out for like 2 cents, 5 cents, 8 cents, especially for a relatively, not to say expensive stock, but perhaps if you trade stocks $5 and under, this could be considered expensive. So, based on how you want, but for myself, with the experience that we have trading this one ticker, the volatility and the price it has, why not expect maybe a 50-cent move up, or at least up to 21, then a pullback? So it just provides that opportunity, right? In and out. So I ended up jumping in right from 2078 as the entry, and ended up closing it right out at 2112 on the exit there. So in and out, it was like kind of squeezing around here. And again, no need to be perfect with the exit. We're getting a little bit closer towards 10 o'clock in the morning anyway, 10:15, 10:30 rather. And that is where, at least we would expect a point of reversal or a point of slowdown. So we're not trying to really trade this stock all throughout the day. Again, I say that to you, even with this at the highs right now, is still moving up at 125 Eastern on a Monday for all days. So this has really been a gift to us all throughout the day, but it's not expected It really is not expected. So the closer it draws towards that 10:30 time, you need to be a little bit safer with your entries. So after I got out at 21.12 on the second trade, I kind of stepped away for a bit. I was kind of just following other stocks. I mean, hey, I like to say this to our students, so I'll say it to you here too. I have a specific role with the company that I work for, Fausto, right? I got to make call outs for 120 of us to 130 of us on a given day. And this isn't the only stock that we were looking at or the only stock that was on our main list. So I am following other things, and I am missing other moves that are happening out there. And I ended up missing this. It ended up taking off again without me here, pushed up that much more. That's okay. That's okay. So far we're 3 trades in, we're 2 for 3, and we're up, a decent chunk already on the morning. That's what my MO was. That was my kind of thought process, at least. So how about this? I'll kind of show Bookmap at this point. And I want to ask us here a really quick question for all of us here joining us live right now. Looking at the heat map, let me delete these lines now at this point, just so there's no distractions. So looking at the heat map here at this point, and looking at the other columns that we may have up here, COB, CVP, and we'll get into the delta coming up next. We haven't touched that actually just yet. I mainly focus on the columns here of my page. So, where do you identify a relatively larger level looking at this kind of page as it's structured? If you could tell me, let me know. Give me a quick sec. I want to make sure I'm good to go just on Discord here. There we go. Just shuffling 1 or 2 things around my way here. All right, so what do we have, folks? What do we got? Got an answer here, 2150. Well, it looks like it. I mean, hey, I ended up having a relatively, larger spike here compared to the prices above it briefly, the prices below it briefly. It's not like kind of like a lump where like a lot kind of shows similar. This definitely sticks out compared to the few pennies above and below it. It's not the largest per se, but yeah, 2150 seems relatively speaking to be a more, prominent price to focus on. We have one of us saying 2110, so that's the largest right there. Yeah, absolutely. And that was not necessarily a level we had plotted, earlier from the morning. So should this kind of pull back more and more, maybe this doesn't drop all the way down. Maybe this could hold at the VWAP again, and which lines up right well with this CVP level. So that actually could be a pretty good thought, right? All right, so let's actually plot a couple levels. I'll get out of single figure mode right there. It's actually my enemy at times when I'm off of it, because I'll forget that I'm off of it, then I'll plot like 8 different lines. But oh, wait. So there we go. We'll go 1, 2 right there. If you want to plot 21 as a whole number level, 13,000+ share order on the bid, you could do that. Let's plot one at 22 now. All right. Now we have a few dots here. What do these mean? Well, these dots represent orders that were filled at the ask. So perhaps you can call them limit sell orders. Perhaps these are people actually looking to even short the stock too on the offer. Should that be possible? Should it be easy to borrow? Whatever the case may be. Well, at first, it had enough momentum to hold and then pop higher here at the time. This could have been a really good opportunity, but then it quickly fell back down. And, if we kind of stick on the thought process of when a stock breaks through a big level, we should get a big move shortly after. Well, nice start, but you're not looking for this to happen. So that's where I could tell you, if it's not going to make that big move up at the time, odds are there's only one other way it's going to go, and it's going to make a big move just the other direction. So you don't want to be a part of that and hang on any longer, really, than you need to. So what happens here over time here? Well, shaking around. We're heading into that kind of lull, time, late morning, early afternoon, lunchtime time of the day. Well, here's the theme. If our best entries to buy a stock are directly after it breaks through a big level on the way up, and it's crashing down here at this point, right? Well, it pulls back. It actually bounces in between. It doesn't drop to 2110. So it ends up finding a home here perhaps, and then bounces. But here's kind of the theme, right? It breaks under this as support and drops, okay? When a stock breaks under support and drops, support should become resistance. Now, with that in mind, as long as we're focused on basic charting principles like that, well, think about every time it nips above 2150. This is kind of like a pain in the butt here for a little bit. It really is. It's about maybe half an hour worth of time where perhaps you expect it, but it is still pretty rugged. It's holding well here. You're looking for a big move. There are times heading into the mid-morning like this where I'll take a tiny loss or I'll take a break-even trade. No problem. A smile on my face doing it. As long as I anticipate a big move to come shortly after, then those break-evens or the tiny losses that may accrue, I mean, hey, it's everyone kind of has a day or two where it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts, and where if you feel like you're taking a lot of tiny losses that are adding up, you're not going to be as incentivized to enter down the line. That I understand. But if you're at least kind of utilizing basic support resistance concepts and basing your entry just going over the level, well, there's probably just very few points where it provides an opportunity to jump in and then take a break even or a false breakout trade. There's a point here, maybe you could have nipped a little money. But the thing is, though, is that you're looking for that larger move, that better move up. So it's been building here. And hey, it broke under it again as support. All right, well, support should become resistance. So seeing it kind of struggle here again is not surprising. But the more times they can kind of nab at it over time, well, it re-breaks it here, ends up popping a little bit higher. And if you're thinking, well, hey, if we're expecting a big reaction off this big level, and you can kind of call this here 2 over time one, it's just that you should be looking for more than like a 10 cent, 15 cent little gain. You should be looking for a lot more than that, given at least the run that it's made thus far in the morning. It's proven itself to provide that type of volatility. So with our next resistance being ahead at 22, 38 plus 1,000 share order, it makes it a little bit more confident for you to hang on just, if not exactly to 22, you don't need to be perfect. So if you can get out at like maybe 10 cents under, 7 cents under, of course, the more the better. But if you're content with the money that you're up at that stage, where you're not like only up the dinky 5 cents or 8 cent profit, then at that point, pull the trade because you're heading into the mid-morning. Definitely look to expect more false breakouts at this stage now. Let me take the lines off one more time. Current time right now, 1:33. Keeping my eye on the time, Bruce. So, I appreciate you once again having me on board, tagging in for Fausto again today. With this, though, it ended up beginning to make a strong pop. And this caught me off guard. So, ultimately, it ended up making a nice test of 22 initially. Pulled back. Poked at it again. Pulled back. So, I was thinking, man, I don't want to just jump in only for this to be a false breakout and then take like a quick loss. I'm already up on the morning at this stage now, but, is it worth it? I mean, is it really going to run all day? I didn't expect it to. So that's where I could tell you now, I'm not in this position right now. I didn't trade this really for the last hour and like 15 minutes, really, hour and a half, if that. So ended up making a nice move up even higher, but that's where I could tell you, we're not like trying to be perfect here. But at least one thing to keep in mind is that the more a stock pushes up, the first test of a key resistance, it should hold. It should. So I was still surprised to see it holding well here. The first test, that was the easiest expectation of my day. The false breakout over 22 at first. Now the question is, does it completely dump off? Or is there more to it? So this is where I jump back in. I ended up taking this entry here once it rebroke back over 22. But I was reluctant at first, right? Like, even I have like, is it really going to go? Is it really going to go? So that's where I left money on the table. But hey, I can't stress enough that every trade that you take begins with the entry point. So I was very satisfied with the end result. I was happy with my own ability to jump in. There's always emotion that ties into any trade. It doesn't matter how long you're doing this. Fausto has been trading and teaching for 30 plus years. I've been doing the same thing for about 9 years now, a little less than 9 years. So, some of us here that have 30, 40 years of overall market experience, you don't have that in Bookmap. You have as much experience in Bookmap as I do. So, it's to tell you at least that doing the same process over and over again, the same, as I'll like kind of bluntly say it, the same song and dance basically every single day. Well, for that long, you should have certain expectations. So thankfully, I jumped in, but it was still a little worrisome. You're heading into that late morning lunchtime area, so is it worth it or not? Thankfully, it ended up pushing up a little bit, and I felt say, hey, if I can get out at 22.50 here, I would have been very happy. And Thankfully, that's what that's what happened there. But that's the basically the last trade that I had on it altogether. I think I took one loss after, maybe in from 2250 again here once it rebroke above, in and then out. I got stopped out here. Making a lower high, pulling back down here. I'm not expecting this to pump all day. So, really kind of one of our points that we like to drive home at cyber trading is that you don't need to be here right now at 1:30 in the afternoon day trading. You don't need to be here at your desk at 12 p.m. Eastern, day trading. So, thankfully this pushed up a lot more. How about this really quickly? We'll move on to just one other stock I'll do, Bruce, and then we'll go from there. But I want to do this here first. Let me ask all of us here. If we're going to be kind of prepping for the afternoon, because, hey, this is kind of lull time right now, lunchtime, not really the best, slow motion. 3 p.m. to 4 p.m., we should see some increased volatility just within the market alike. And perhaps if this is still holding as well as it is here, maybe if it drops a little lower or whatever. But, I think that there's still a chance later where this can make some formal bounce or breakout again for us to capitalize on. So let me ask us right now, kind of looking at just this picture here, the whole view. I mean, the heat map, the columns, just all of it alike. Are there any big levels, so to say, that you would want me or us to focus on going forward on this trade? You'll have to kind of do it on your own, end of things here as we wrap up this webinar coming up at 2 p.m. Eastern. But, if there's any levels that you see that stick out on the heat map, on the columns there, let me know. Type it in. All right, so got one right away. 2250 or 2350, that is. Even a little under that, but you still want to round up to the 50-cent level. 50-cent levels and whole numbers typically are going to be key levels to watch out for. That's basically the high. Maybe you could even say 2253 is the exact HOD. I'd have to get that on my other screen. But otherwise, though, 2250 basically is where we have the big volume that got filled here throughout the consolidation. Well, 23 we talked about before. The re-break over 23 here, I ended up missing out on that. I was in from 22. So ended up seeing this pop over 23, ran up pretty nicely after. Hey, there's a couple of points on this trade where it did try and hold support at 23 very nicely. It shook under and over. So this could be where, hey, you might take a break-even trade expecting more on the re-break above this level, above 23 that is. And then unfortunately it kind of pulls back under where, we have extra liquidity here at 2306. So you can kind of get the feel here. It's like, it's not going to make that big pop that you want. And so re-break too. So this could be a trade that I could see myself just going in and out on break even. And then again, maybe one more time after as well, looking for a better run. And there are points where you look for it and it pops up nicer, but then you have another shake. So there's a couple of points here on this trade overall that, it's not really making that better move. It's expected. This stock, you can't keep moving up perfectly all throughout the day. So we had a level at 23. What else do we have here, folks? Any other levels that we have plotted? Or that we could look to plot, I should rather say. Go the VWAP here, maybe. 2210. I mean, if this is the high of the day and a total dump-off happens, I mean, when was the last time it tested VWAP? From the morning, right? So for it to run off there so well, perhaps that would be a very big support level to watch heading into the afternoon. But that's a ways away. That's pretty far away from where this is trading now. So, unless if you're short on it and hoping for it to crash, then, you got a few price levels above that first. Now, this is where we could dig into the delta column now. Because, the delta column shows the difference between the volume filled at the ask, what I'll kind of nickname for right now is the buying, versus the red, which is what we'll kind of for right now call the selling, all right? If you can kind of follow me here for right now. Meaning that, hey, the more times that this nips above this line here, it should run. Well, the whole reason that we focus on that is because we're seeing more and more volume filled at the ask each and every time. So eventually something's got to give, and then pop goes the weasel, right? It ended up running up very nicely. Well, same thing could have happened here at 2350. Huge volume filled at the ask, but again, though, if it's not going to make that big, illustrious pop that you're looking for going up, at the time, there's only one other way the stock will go. So, this thing has had a tough time throughout the early afternoon thus far. Expected. Perhaps the more times it nips at it heading into 2:30, 3 o'clock Eastern time, it can make a move, like a better pop. Hey, it's actually running up right now. Maybe it's going to prove us wrong sooner than later, actually, on that. But otherwise, though, what I was going to point to, this might be so strong that this breaks 2350 right freaking now. How about that? That would be pretty unexpected. What I was going to try and say is that if this ends up really continuing to pull back more, 23 is a big level to watch. But let's focus in on that delta column. And maybe we'll focus in before that big shake just occurred. So there aren't really too many price points here that stick out on delta that have a lot more red than green. And to me, that would be interesting in terms of looking for a potential support, because that means that we ended up seeing that price level get nipped at a lot on the bid, and it previously had held, as a support level. So it looks like it pulled back down pretty nicely, but it ended up kind of going under and over. And then from here, it built up pretty nicely around 23.25. And here we go again. So wow, what a strong move right now, folks. Live right now. Let's take a look. The more times that this kind of tests this level, specifically 2350, in a shorter time frame, in a shorter concentration, you should get that illustrious big move that you would want to see happen. So it tested it here at 130 almost 130 on the nose, 131. And then on the retest here, that was about 10 minutes later. So you do want to give it perhaps even shorter time frame in that regard for it to test, then pop. So let's see if it could do it coming up. This would be pretty interesting to happen live. Again, you can never expect a stock to, run up perfectly all throughout the day. I don't care what news is out on it. I know there was some formal news headline that came out this morning on AI, this ticker. And the stock isn't up even as much as we nearly focus on inside our live trading room. We'll often see stocks up 200, 300, 500%. The other AI stocks in the sector that ran. But even this, you can't kick your feet back and just say, oh, it's going to run all the way up perfectly today. We were even focusing in our live trading room this morning on this stock. Actually, I'm happy I reminded myself right now. I have this right here too. So anyone here trade options? I know a lot of us generally do, but anyone here in particular joining me right now trade options? If you do, just give me a chat back. This morning, when I took my first entry on this trade, pardon me. First entry I took was at the 2033. I asked at the time when it broke over 21. So on my entry off of 21 that I was looking for here. So I was asking our students, just looking at an options order book, if you were to have a strike price of 21, let's say weekly expiration for May 19th, what would be the, where is it trading at, basically, if you wanted to do an in the money or at the money call? And they told me it's trading at 22 cents. That's pretty crazy. So, the reason I say that is because the leverage in options is that much greater with stocks. So, if you're finding this run impressive, well, folks, again, I can't stress enough, I wasn't expecting this to happen all day today. It's like, there could be room for multiple entries as long as you're getting good meat off the bone on, on the trades that you're taking. With that, at the time that I was asking, it was at 21. It was trading at basically 22 cents per contract. When I got out on the first trade, or scaled out on the first trade, it was trading at $1.45 or $1.40, I think it was at the time. So that's an insane profit on this one stock. It just goes to show, whether you're buying the stock or buying calls on it. Now, again, here we go. This is a really good opportunity here. So, I don't have my main trading platform on this screen here, but I'd love to tell you, hey, if this ends up nipping 2350, maybe I even move that line up another penny actually, just to actually make it legit. But if this can crack 2350 again, I think that it would be a good opportunity to buy. Now, let's say if that does happen coming up here, it held it, or it nipped it here and then held perfect. If it actually breaks back above it again here, I think that this could be actually an ideal opportunity for an entry. But the key is, though, is that you would need to see it break through that big level and make a damn big reaction off of it. You could tell how big of a level it is just from the last hour alone from consolidation. It's not just the high. One little high here does not determine a key level, unless if it was a historical level to watch over time. That I did not dig into really when it comes to that area. I was only focused on the 2033/2020 exactly. So maybe we can kind of poke at that at the tail end. But for right now, we know where the big money is trading at here. So, hey, if you like what you see, just stick around for another like 10 minutes here. I have a good invite for all of us here just joining us here on YouTube, as well as, of course, Discord right now. Coming up at the tail end of this presentation, just to join us inside our live trading room. But this is as good as it gets right now. The only thing about this trade that I'm not a fan of, not to sound like a negative Nancy here, really, but it's the timing of the day. That's all. It's like lull still time of the day. Wall Street's out to lunch right now, typically at this point. Or they're finishing up lunch at this point, really. They start their lunches early. I learned that before I joined Fausto. I was working in the real estate sector, actually, conveniently enough, literally on Wall Street, 63 and 67 Wall. You could look them up. They're high-rise residential properties, and damn, they go for a lot of money now. It's just, the whole way the economy's turned. But funny enough, on a weekday at like 11 o'clock a.m., you get a bunch of suits out there, and they're piling up like the food truck stands. Well, why is that? Well, literally, think about it. Like 10:30 in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning, they are done trading. They're done, following the market at that point. They're letting their assistants cover for them, and they're out to meetings. They're out to lunch. They're out to meetings, whatever it may be. So before I knew a singular thing about, shorting a stock or, following Bookmap, of course, if anything, that was actually the first thing that I knew about trading. And it was actually before I joined Fausto. This time of the day typically does not provide as much. So that's why it's good to be patient. It's good to be more patient than to be more impulsive at this time of the day. It's actually better to be more trigger happy as long as you're following your levels and following the protocol of buying when it breaks through the level going up. But it's better to be more trigger happy, after the first 5 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes, first hour of the open, last hour of the day. Right now and from earlier, it's always better to be patient. If you miss a move, that's like the least of your concerns throughout the day. Because no matter what, as far as I've been following the market at least, and certainly as long as Bruce and Fausto and all of us here, unless it's a holiday, markets have not closed permanently. So there's always going to be another trade. So, this at least, thankfully, it's like the only one that I have an interest in. It's just that, it might not make this big pop with about 8 or 10 minutes to go here in this presentation. That's all. So, again, if it happens later at 3 p.m., it would be great to have you join us inside our live trading room for that. Now, how about this really quick? We'll try and follow this here live. Watch the second I turn away from this trade, it's going to make this big pop. But are there any other stocks that you'd want me to look at here just to kind of go over from the morning today? If there are right now, then just let me know. Type it in. I'm going to try and look at the chat right now if I can. I know I have the Discord app open, Bruce. I just want to see if there's a... it's been tough for me to look at chat thus far. That's all.
Yeah, I've been answering the chat questions in YouTube.
Okay, excellent. So if there are any tickers, I'm sure more name brand than anything, let me know just all together, whether it's coming in from YouTube or Discord. It could be Shopify, it could be Tesla, NVIDIA. Let me know and we can quickly cover that as well. I wanted to do 2 different stocks here in this presentation. It's just crazy how strong this has been. So again, another hold off 2350 here. The magic number so far this afternoon. And I know there's a little volume up top at 55 and 60, but think about it. This is a much more prominent level, at least based off how it's been holding now, and just with the volume that it's been building off of. So, if it does crack 2350, I'd be interested in taking the entry, but I would not be interested in getting 10 cents or 15 cents or 5 cents. I'm not in it for 25 necessarily. The home run up top there, or a little bit above that as we had. But if I can get to 24, I think that's a great start. I feel very gratified and justified with 24 even. So,
how about Tesla?
Yeah, let's do Tesla. Thankfully, I like this being on a Monday, Bruce, because if I didn't restart my computer or have it shut down from the weekend, I'd probably have so much data to work off of from last week, and it would be like a ton to dig through. That's what I love Bookmap so much for, because it gives you the ability to study, let alone use it to trade. So you can go back on previous days. I could load it up, I'm certain, but I don't need to necessarily for right now. All right, so this will load up in just a moment, the heat map all together. Just give me a quick second here.
So Josh, a question, a few questions in here
Certainly.
in the YouTube about, so, the I haven't looked at it yet. The S&P 500 is going down here, but AI is going up. And like, how do you? I mean,
Oh, I love
obviously,
that.
it's uh, it's a hot stock. It's a phenomena. It's important right now, and you'll get these kind of divergences like that all the time. I'm wondering, how do you handle that though? Like, how do you look at that? Do you really care, or do you just think like, look, it's separate from what the rest of the market is doing?
Well, so it's the latter, but then the former is the reaction that I've learned to gain over time from being with Fausto. So just to kind of explain that a bit, it's so, I don't want to say easy, but it's common sense to be more hesitant to buy in a down market, right? Uh, so, for a lot of students I coach, they give me that concern. And hey, it's better to not take a trade than to jump into something that you're skeptical of or uncertain of. Now, of course, the blunt way to put it is we need to at least get over emotions and say, all right, let's focus on how this stock is moving up to begin with, right? So, easier said than done because it requires a little time. It's not an overnight success, but the more that you dig at Bookmap and really just the screen time with studying Bookmap and just any particular stock, not even a stock that you traded. Like that's why I wanted to ask if there was a second trade, like Tesla. Why did this move the way it did? Well, it's not moving the exact way as the S&P, I'm certain. So, you could ask that same question on Tesla when Tesla is going completely against the grain as the markets are down. So it comes with the experience, I'd like to just say best. Now, the one thing I could tell you, though, if there is like a takeaway in terms of strategy, it's being more patient, waiting for a re-break, not just a break over a level. That I gave you already, but a re-break over a big level. Like, hey, 23. First test, held, easy. Second test, maybe it could have ran right from there. So just over time, if you've come to a stock, and let's just say, if you've already have seen it kind of give it a fight already, it's given it a fight here at this point. And let's just say that you weren't trading the stock at this stage, you weren't tied up with it at this point. Well, the fact that it's breaking over the level, right? We said it before with the delta column. Look at that, how it sticks out here green on the delta column. Just the more times it nips over that level, that's the strategy that we teach. So, it's not as easy right out the gate because you're kind of going against the market by going long on this, right? And markets are down, this is going up. So it's not as easy of a fear to kick right away, but it just comes with screen time. That's just the best answer I can give there.
Okay.
Now let's go to Tesla though, if I could. I know I got limited time now, current time 1:53, so I want to save about 4 minutes. But with that though, Tesla, for all of us just joining us here, a simple question. What's the direction of Tesla going into the market open? It's down. So with that, it was still dropping off a little bit here prior to the opening bell anyway. General direction is lower highs. I know it built a little support here. I know there's support at 167. I'm kind of doing this more expedited right now since we did spend a lot of time on AI. But really briefly, what I'll kind of just quickly do is plot a couple of big levels. Looks like big spike right here, just in between, kind of like right at 167.88. Looks like right there on the whole number level, 168 on the nose, two big CVP spikes. So that range overall creates a big level. Now with that though, I'll just quickly look at the delta column here. All right. Now, let's say if this ends up kind of beginning to break up above these two lines when the market opens up, which I don't know exactly happened out that way or it held perfect. I'm just saying that, hey, this is a key range of resistance based on the CVP that we just covered right here. So if it were to pop above that, if you're anticipating for the trend to continue, well, if you're going to short a stock, it's the opposite that I would look for a long. If my best entries to buy a stock are directly after it breaks over the level, through the level on the way up, then my best entries to short a stock are directly after it breaks through a big level on the way down. So really quick, market opens up, pops up at first, breaks above these two lines at first. What happens is throughout the day? Is it still around there? Well, at first it popped up, and man, this came storming back down. It ended up actually running up close towards 170. It didn't test it. It didn't false break it. This could have been a very interesting opportunity if you're bearish and looking for a short, or if you're looking to buy puts on it. Ideally, I would have waited for an over and under. Break over this order, pull back under it, and then buy the puts. Just cookie didn't crumble that way, at least. So ended up pulling back. You could do the same thing here. Notice, like, I mean, hey, for this to be such a big resistance, and it ran off of it, ideally, perhaps 169 could be support. Well, what's shocking about that there is that it looks like it holds it at first, goes up, but red flag, not good, and it quickly comes back down. So that invalidates a long, I think, pretty quickly right there. And then from that point, easy to say, but in like the next minute, holds back under 69 and drops. Once it re-breaks under, this basically is your key confirmation for a much larger move on the way down at that point. So, this could be easy to say after the fact. I like to kind of call myself Captain Hindsight at often points, but, it's easy to say what happened after a stock made a big move, right? Once this got smashed below these two lines of support from pre-market, support became resistance, and then it rebroke it again, which led to an even, a second or third entry on the trade, perhaps even as a short. So, hey, it's easy to kind of tell you what happened after the fact, but as long as you have the levels prepped out beforehand, it at least provides an opportunity. Again, it's kind of like having the answers to the test before the test is even given out, right? So really quickly, Bruce, if I may, I just want to show a couple slides here to wrap up. I think I got about 3 minutes, right?
Yeah, sure.
All right, perfect. So, hey, if you're joining us on YouTube, if you're joining us on Discord, I appreciate you folks sticking with myself in particular throughout the last 57 minutes. Kind of a hot tag, late tag here from Fausto, wishing him the best. But, I was really looking forward to being on Bookmap's platform here today to present. I've been using it for the last 4.5 years roughly, right? So, with the amount of experience that we have inside our live trading room, every day I kind of consider it, you're like a golf fan, perhaps, whether you watch or play even, I kind of consider it like waking up and going out on a brand new set of 18 each and every morning, because Bookmap makes it that, I don't want to say easy with trading. Easy is a powerful word to use, right? Because not every trade's easy. But it makes it that much more eye-opening to see the green, to see the field. And eventually, as long as you have your levels prepped, you're going to get what you want. So for all of us on YouTube, for all of us on Discord right now, if you wanted to join us further, a couple of options first. Just make sure that you subscribe right to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/cybertradingu, youtube.com/cybertradingu. You could look us up also, Cyber Trading University. If I'm not mistaken as well, if you even, I think, click perhaps, there might be even a hyperlink there. I'm uncertain. But otherwise, though, you could also just join us otherwise just inside our live trading room. You could follow us on Facebook and Twitter prior to that, perhaps. But you could join us inside our live trading room. So we're open all throughout market hours, folks, even earlier, beginning at 7:30 Eastern time. Our first audio broadcast begins at 9 a.m. Eastern. Fausto himself does our morning meeting. He'll scan the market live, build up our morning watch list, and then from there, both him and myself do live audio commentary from the market open up until 10:30, first hour of the market day, that is, so to say. And then from that point, we continue. Myself, I'll be jumping back inside our live trading room momentarily, doing our next audio broadcast beginning at 2:30 p.m. Eastern with our afternoon meeting every Tuesday. Tomorrow, this is why I say join us actually for this week, because tomorrow I'll be conducting our weekly live workshop inside our live trading room, Traders Talk. It is as good of a chance to learn more about our strategy in full. And then otherwise, though, just a couple last questions. Just, hey, you might ask, how much money do you need to start? As far as trading, everyone has their own different account sizes. Everyone's trading their own money. It's not a competition, folks. So you could trade off of any size account. Fausto likes to say all you really need for right now is just $9. That's the cost of doing our trial inside our live trading room. This is the weekly schedule that we have. So open Monday to Friday. We have access to our live we have access to our recorded workshops, all throughout the trial membership, Monday to Friday, including weekends. But, there you go, folks. So if you're interested in continuing, you could even go right to that QR code right there that you could scan, and it will take you right to the link to sign up just to join us for a week. You don't need to start today or tomorrow. If you call our office, they can at least set your trial to begin on a particular date. You can go right also to ctu.co/trial. Take you right to the web link right there from there too. All right. So Bruce, there you go. I appreciate everyone, Bruce, Kamal, and Sachi, and all of us there from Bookmap, as well as you folks joining us here live. Just to have me on board. I look forward to the next one as well.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Josh. Yeah, looking forward to doing more with you. I hope Fausto's okay. I'll reach out. Excellent job there. Would love to do more.
Perfect. Well, I'll tell you really quick in hindsight, this actually popped it here. Well, this would have been an entry to me, but it didn't give me what I wanted, so that's it. So we'll see what this brings us in the afternoon, this trade.
Yeah. We'll be taking a look. Yep. Thanks so much, Josh.
No problem. Thank you, guys.